Hi, I'm Nikki.
And I'm Megan.
Welcome to the Grimdark Diaries.
We're your geek gal pals obsessed with true crime and all things dark and disturbing.
Hi, hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode that is in October. Yay! Official spooky season is upon us.
Yes, it is. Wow, I do not know where that accent came from. Happy Halloween, everybody.
Oh, God, it sounded like you're getting ready for like a kid's cartoon that you're the host of. Megan's
I don't know what's happening.
happy tootin' rootin' hoedown.
Apparently so. It's the hay rides and pumpkin field patches. What? Pumpkin patch fields? What are they?
Pumpkin patches?
I don't know.
That's the word. You can do it.
They're getting me in the rodeo mindset, apparently. I don't even know.
You are all over the place.
I do not even enjoy anything country, so it's weird that accent came out of my mouth.
You just never know what you're getting here.
I apologize for all of those out there who do not enjoy country wang like me.
Yeah. I have a shout out to give. Megan?
You have a shout out to give to me?
No, not to you.
Oh, you're just saying my name. Got it. Yes. Who is this?
No, I'm just announcing that I am going to present one now on our show.
Perfect. Got it.
You already know this one because I already told you.
Okay.
But on the weekend, I was in Value Village with my husband. He was buying a thing for his Halloween costume. And we were standing in line, and then a very nice gentleman approached me and somehow recognized me, even though I had on a mask and a hat. So that is he's in the Grimdark Detective Club for sure. Because
it's the hair, though.
He was able to somehow recognize me. It might have been the pink hair. I don't know. My hair's kind of faded now, though. But anyway, he recognized me from the Grimdark Diaries, and he said, "Hey, so... sorry, sir, I did not get your name. That was very kind of you. I was really thrown off guard, and you helped to show my husband that my podcast isn't shit, and I could possibly be mildly famous now," because he was like, "Whoa, somebody recognized you?" And then he was like, "Especially like your podcast is an audio thing. How did somebody recognize you?" So thank you, gentlemen in the Value Village of Bedford Commons. You helped make me seem cool in front of my husband.
I love it so much. That's so awesome. Oh, I love it. It's funny because your husband is also the type of person who will never listen to this podcast. So it's funny to think that you have been recognized for the podcast out in public, which is amazing. It's a good podcast to your husband. He needs to listen.
Yeah, he should.
Agreed.
Yeah, thank you. That made my day.
That's amazing.
I just ate a poutine before I went there and my stomach was very full. I was thinking about how I wanted to go home and lie down, but my husband really wanted to get this thing for his Halloween costume. So I was kind of being like, okay, hurry it up. I got to go lie down. My stomach is too full. And then this guy Gay said hi and it was great. Made my day.
That's awesome. I love that. It's a great story. We have
hopefully he didn't decide to stop listening all of a sudden.
Yeah.
So he can
We love to hear that you guys love the podcast. It's always very uplifting, and we like to know that we're doing something right.
Yeah. If you spot us in the wild and you speak to us, we will officially not introduce, what's the word? Induct you into the Grimdark Detective Club for finding us.
That's
like a Where's Waldo, but in the real world.
That's right. Yes. Yeah, exactly. And then you'll get a fancy shout out from us on the podcast.
I know that's worth my weight in gold.
Absolutely. Your weight in gold? My weight in gold, more like. Oh, that's awesome. I love to hear it. So we're going to jump into the story. Do you remember what is the word? We haven't done this in so long. What is the category I got the last time
I'm going to be real with you.
No.
Don't remember.
That's fair. If I didn't have it open in front of me, I also probably would have forgot because it's been a while. My category was Devil's Advocate.
Right. I knew that. somewhere deep inside
deep down.
my cerebral something.
Cortex? I don't know. Is that that's the machine? Oh, I'm thinking Cerebro from X-Men.
From X-Men?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm very excited that they announced that Deadpool 3 is going to have Wolverine in it.
When I tell you, I screamed out loud.
It was such a good ad,
I saw that. I was so excited. I have 2 pictures that were drawn and colored by Hugh Rookwood. Shout out to Hugh Rookwood, who is an artist in Toronto, and he comes to HalCon every year. And I love his art style. It is one of my favorite art styles out there in existence that I've seen so far in my life. And I have one that is Wolverine and one that is Deadpool. And on each of them, on Wolverine's claws, you can see a reflection of Deadpool. And on Deadpool's, he's got a sword or, I don't know, katana or something like that. And in the reflection on the sword is a reflection of Wolverine. It's like,
oh, cool.
It's so cool. He's
very clever.
Such a good artist. And I just love these pictures so much. I'll never, ever get rid of them. Stay on my wall forever. Anyway, I'm a big Deadpool fan, so I'm very excited about this crossover. I've been waiting for this crossover ever since Ryan Reynolds became Deadpool. Sorry, I'm getting very off track, but I'm very excited. If you can't tell. Ever since Ryan Reynolds became Deadpool, I wanted that because I knew their relationship in person was just so fantastic. But then that's when Logan was made and Hugh Jackman said he wasn't going to do it anymore. I was so sad. So I'm very, very happy now. I'm a very happy girl. Okay.
Yay.
Devil's advocate. So I got actually all the material for this story from a website called peoplepill.com. There wasn't really a whole lot about this story, and I was very surprised. Not a whole lot of information that I could get online, but this is just such a perfect story for this category, so I had to go with it. So, catch my breath. I got really excited about the Deadpool thing, so I got like really out of breath. So today we're talking about a man named Giovanni Di Stefano. He was born on July 1st in 1955, all the way across the pond in Petrella Tifernina, Italy.
My friend's in Italy right now.
Really?
And I'm watching her eat. Yes, my friend Kate. I love Kate. She listens to this podcast.
Oh, Kate. Yes, we love Kate.
Yes.
Okay.
Kate is just a lovely human being, and she's been in Italy for a while now, and I've just been watching her post every day all the stuff she eats, and I am extremely jealous because the food in Italy looks to be everything I've ever wanted to eat.
Really? I was going to say I'd love to be there, but I've been there before.
It looks very gluten-y.
Yeah, I don't remember. Well, I didn't have the issues that I have now with gluten back then. I think I was 15 years old when I went over there. We went with a tour. My God, I don't know what's wrong with my voice today. A tour group with school, and we did a tour of Italy, England, France, and Italy. So we ended our trip in Italy, which was gorgeous. It was one of my favorite places to go. Never been to Petrella Tifernina, though. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. I apologize for the butchering. It's a southern Italy town near Campobasso. Giovanni's father had emigrated to Urchester, England to go work for a shoe factory. So Giovanni and his mother followed suit shortly after when he was about 6 years old. He went to John Lee School, which was located in Wellingborough. He also spent a year at the Wellingborough Grammar School, which is actually now known as the Wren School. And he said after this, he obtained a PhD in law from Cambridge University. In his 20s, he claimed to have earned a fortune importing videotapes from Hong Kong. I don't really know what that means, and I couldn't find any more about it. So it was very, very mysterious, these random videotapes that he was importing from Hong Kong. So while he was in school, while he was going there in England, most of his peers would call him John, which I guess is the English name for Giovanni. I don't know. I find Giovanni not that hard to pronounce, but maybe John is just easier because it's one syllable. Giovanni grew up in England, and he lived there until about 1989 when he was 34 years old. Even though this is where he grew up, he very much wanted people to see him as Italian first and foremost. But in 1984, in June, he was actually arrested and charged with fraud before being released on bail. He was again arrested in August of that same year and refused bail. In 1986, he was tried for...
Did it say what his fraud was?
No, it didn't go into the details.
I love a good fraud story.
I know. I think a part of it had to do with the importing of videotapes from Hong Kong. I feel like those two are kind of connected the way the story was told on the website, but it wasn't very clear. So we're just going to go with that. But there wasn't anything more about it, about the fraud case. So he was convicted after a 78-day trial, which seems wild. He was jailed for 5 years and prohibited from being a company director for 10 years. And a total of 11 fraud counts. He was convicted of 3 and acquitted of 8. That was in 1986. In the ruling, the judge called him one of nature's fraudsters, a swindler without scruple or conscience. And he said that he was motivated by personal greed and pretension. Court records show that Giovanni's only attempt to appeal the conviction was dismissed in 1987, and further records published in 2005 showed that he had served the full sentence, so 5 years. According to The Guardian and the Irish Independent magazines, he had already served a 6-month sentence for fraud and false pretenses in 1975 in Ireland, and also a 3-year sentence for obtaining property by deception and other charges in 1976 in the UK. He insisted that these convictions were those of a different person called John instead of Giovanni, which we all know that is what he went by sometimes. Even though these two people that he was claiming not to be had the same surname and birthday and birthplace. Seems pretty specific. In 1990, Giovanni traveled to New Zealand, where he made several multi-million-dollar bids on property. So it sounds like he was kind of a property trader, real estate agent sort of deal, maybe.
How did he have multi-million dollars if he just got out of jail for fraud?
This was in 87. Well, it did say that he had made a significant, and he earned a fortune importing videotapes from Hong Kong. So I'm assuming...
If he got fraud charges, though, he probably had to pay back a lot of money.
Potentially, but maybe not all of it.
I guess it depends on what kind of fraud it is, so I take that back.
Mm-hmm. So he had made several multi-million-dollar bids on property on behalf of a Beverly Hills-based company. So it was actually on behalf of the company. The authorities discovered that he had not disclosed a conviction in England in 1986. So they declared him a prohibited immigrant, and he was subsequently returned to his country of origin. In 1991, he moved to Yugoslavia, all over the world. In November 2002, he received the Yugoslavian citizenship and passport by personal authorization of President Slobodan Milosevic. According to the Scotsman and Irish Independent, he was moving to a country with no extradition treaty with the UK to escape a warrant for more fraud charges. Around 1992, while trying to buy the MGM film studio...
The whole studio?
Yeah, apparently.
That would have to be a lot of money.
Right? I just feel like he just was doing a lot of dirty trading and whatnot. The United States Immigration and Naturalization Service deported him from the United States because of a fraud conviction in the UK in 1986. So it keeps going back to that fraud conviction. He appealed for a non-immigrant visa for re-entry a few months later and was told that he needed a waiver of grounds of inadmissibility to be eligible. The waiver application was denied by the federal agency, causing the visa to be denied. In 1993, he appealed to a United States District Court, which ruled that it lacked jurisdiction to review the denial of a waiver application. In 1995, the United States Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit affirmed the judgment of the district court, ruling that Giovanni did not have standing to challenge the waiver denial under the Immigration and Nationality Act. He was persistent, if nothing else.
I mean, persistence has to count for something, doesn't it?
Yeah, they usually do say persistence pays off, right?
Yeah. The squeaky wheel gets the grease.
What?
Right? Can we put that with that one?
Yeah, I've
Is that
never
where that one goes?
heard that saying before. I don't really know what that...
You've never heard the squeaky wheel saying?
No.
Listeners.
Gets the grease? No. I don't...
What?
No, that one I've never heard before. I'm sorry.
You've never heard that before?
I've heard... What have I heard? The squeaky mouse gets the cheese or something like that?
What?
I don't know. Now I'm double thinking.
Everyone needs to weigh in on this. No, I need the entirety of the internet to weigh in on this. I feel like, and you know how I feel about sayings like that. I don't like them. I don't know them most of the time.
Right.
I never understand them. But squeaky wheel gets the grease, or I think some people say oil, whatever it is. It gets the lubrication, as in the wheel that is, you know.
I mean, I understand what it
going
means.
wild is the one that's going to get attention. That's what
Yeah.
they say. So the person that speaks up and is persistent, or the person that is standing out. I can't believe you've never heard that. That's something I hear on like a weekly basis.
What? Well,
Yes.
we obviously just live in different circles on a daily basis. I've never heard that one before, though, for sure.
Oh my goodness. Everybody on the internet, comment on this post and let Megan know about this.
I guess, yeah. Or if you have any other idioms out there that mean the same thing or something similar that we may have heard of more so than this one.
Like the squeaky mouse gets the cheese.
I don't know if that's even it now that I'm hearing it, because like it doesn't sound right, but I don't know. I think I've heard different idioms that mean something the same, but not that one in particular.
That blows my mind. It's in TV and movies all the time.
I mean, maybe I've heard it before. It just doesn't sound familiar to me. That's all. I don't know.
My goodness.
All right. Well, so this takes us to November 1999. And when Giovanni was arrested in Rome, he was extradited to Britain to be tried for fraud charges in the insolvency in 1991 of 5 hotels in the English Midlands and a company called Sandhurst Assets. British investigators recognized his name when newspapers reported his bids for Dundee Football Club and for Ellington Colliery, and acted on a 1991 warrant. In June 2001, after Giovanni had spent 18 months in jail, a judge ruled that he couldn't be tried because too much time had passed since the alleged offenses. Because there was about 8 years difference between when the insolvency happened and when he got arrested. During his stay, excuse me for the pronunciation of this name, but he stayed at Rabibia prison. I believe that's how you pronounce it. His friend Arkan, who was a warlord.
How do you get a title of warlord?
I don't know. I assume you have to start some sort of war with some I don't know, a country or a group of people or something. I'm not sure. He was assassinated, and his other friend, Milosevic, who was the Yugoslavian president, I believe it was, he was jailed shortly before he was released. So Giovanni claims that it was all part of a conspiracy to isolate Milosevic from his most trusted advisor. He had an office in Rome. So Giovanni, he had an office in Rome. The studio, it was called Legale Internazionale. He is well known there for defending some of the country's most notorious villains, as per the UK media. He once commented that he would, quote, defend Adolf Hitler or Satan, end quote.
Okay, so wait, Giovanni's a lawyer now?
Yeah, so I mentioned earlier in the story that he had claimed to go to law school in Cambridge at Cambridge University, and he obtained a PhD.
So people actually hired him as a lawyer?
Apparently so, yes. So he says that he defends the indefensible. When asked about his motivation, he was quoted as saying, "No one's ever asked, does Satan have a case? Does he have a good case?" Which is kind of a ridiculous quote in my opinion, but he has been known as a very colorful and often controversial lawyer, if you didn't get that already from what I've said. The newspaper company, The Guardian, has called him surely the only man in the world to claim the personal friendship of Saddam Hussein and the personal enmity of Delia Smith after a failed bid to buy Norwich City FC.
Is that a soccer team?
Oh, football club. Yes, it was the football.
Yeah.
It's a football club, but it's soccer as we know it in North America.
To us in North America, yes. It is called soccer.
Correct.
In Europe, it is football,
Correct.
Which makes way more sense, by the way.
I agree.
Because our football is, in fact, played with your hands.
Yes.
Mostly.
The only time it's played with your foot is when you're kicking it to the goalpost.
When you're punting and when you're doing field goal.
Somebody who knows football more than I do. Thank you.
I love football.
Yes.
American football.
Yes. It is definitely a cool sport to watch. Again, I don't really understand it, but it's cool to watch.
I'll explain it to you someday. You'll love it.
Someday. We definitely need to go to a game for sure. And you can.
I got like an insane amount of football knowledge.
I'm definitely
so I got you.
Looking for knowledge. Yes. In 2000,
but only if you cheer for the New Orleans Saints.
The New Orleans Saints? I've never even heard of that team before.
It's my favorite team.
Is it? Why?
Yes. Also the Chicago Bears.
Okay, I've heard of them. I'd cheer for Chicago because I'm a big lover of Chicago, even though I've never been there. I want to go really bad.
Yeah, they have a good team. I like their team. It's because when I learned about football, sorry, this is going to be a sidetrack for a hot moment. So when I learned about football, because the island that I'm from does not have football, so I didn't know anything about it. And then I went to university here in mainland Nova Scotia, and my university had a football team, and there was guys in my dorm that lived there that played football their whole life. Mm-hmm. And I asked them to teach me football because I was in the dance team and I had to go to all the football games and I wanted to understand it. And they so very nicely explained it to me like over weeks, making sure I understood literally everything and all of the strategy and all of the rules. And then every Sunday night we would go into our dorm room, had like a communal lounge with a TV. Mm-hmm. We would all huddle in there and we would all watch football together, and they would explain the games the first couple times we did it. So I would understand like why stuff was happening and what was going on. And then we would just watch it every week after that because I loved it so much. But I remember they explained it to me beforehand. And then the first Sunday night football I watched, there's games all day long. And then the kind of big headline game, you know what I mean? Like the big...
You mean like the UFC PPP? Oh my God. Pay-per-view? Yeah, PPP. Pay-per-view.
I don't know.
The UFC fights, they used to have like a whole bunch of different...
You don't combine sports here. Fights. I only know of very few. But whatever the kind of the big game of that day, kind of, the best teams or the whatever it is to get like the spot in the playoffs would be at the end of the day. It's the late night game.
Yeah.
So we watched games all day and they were good and they were interesting. But then I remember the late night game, the big one was the Dallas Cowboys versus the New Orleans Saints. And it was like such a big to do. And the way the teams came in was so impressive. Like just the way they came onto the field was like a whole show, and there was lights and there was fireworks and they were all perfectly like just in sync running onto this field. And it was like, I don't know.
I feel that way about the Thunderbirds when they come onto the lacrosse field. I'm like, yes, this is such a huge production. Right? I love this.
Yeah. So I don't know. There was something about the way the Saints came and they won that game. And the way that they just came on the field and everything about that just made me really fall in love with football. At the time, the team was really good. They did really good that season. That would have been in like, let me think about this, like 2006, 2007. They had a really good season. And so, I don't know, something about them. And then I just fell in love with them. So then I declared them my team.
That's fair. That makes sense.
It was a good year. Drew Brees, quarterback. He was really great.
Oh, I
he had
know
a great
that name.
season.
Yeah. I do know that.
He's a great quarterback. Mm-hmm. Yep. And then I liked the Chicago Bears because they were also a good team. And they had this guy on their team whose last name was Urlacher. And he was a tank and he would tackle people and it looked like he made them explode. He would tackle them so hard.
Wow. Okay.
And so I liked that team too. Anyway, that was my football side.
Amazing. Not the same football as in the story.
No. American football.
American football. Yeah, football. Oh, boy. Okay. So back to the story. So in 2002, the governor of HM Prison Belmarsh barred Giovanni's access to a client in prison. This was Nicholas van Hoogstraten. We'll talk about him in a minute. The restriction was appealed to the High Court of Justice in R. van Hoogstraten versus Governor of Belmarsh Prison, which ruled against the prisoner governor. The decision held that the governor's challenge to Giovanni's credentials was not filed in a timely manner, and that some evidence suggested that Giovanni was an Italian lawyer, and that Italian lawyers, as a rule, were permitted visitation in British prisons as European lawyers. The justice further ruled that since denying Giovanni's visits to the prisoner would cause severe prejudice to the client's legal defense, he could not be denied that right until a timely and successful challenge was made. In spite of these problems, he managed to gain the release of Hoogstraten from prison in 2004. So in November, the higher court made a different ruling for a different prison, this time saying that Giovanni had failed to provide adequate credentials and preventing him from visiting John Palmer in prison. After this, Giovanni took up the Italian word avocado, which is not avocado.
Avocados?
It's not avocado. It's avocado, which apparently is Italian.
Avada Cravata?
Did you just kill all of our audience?
No, I said it with no magic.
No magic. So okay. Fine. Okay, good. Everybody is
my
safe.
wand's in my drawer.
Okay, perfect. So avocado is an Italian word that means advocate, which is analogous to an English lawyer. In 2002, he added that to his business card. Giovanni attracted clients after a BBC documentary entitled Notorious in 2003. This covered 4 entrepreneurs that had obtained their fortunes via controversial means. And his chapter in that documentary was called Devil's Advocate. Ding, ding, ding. There's the category. In the documentary.
Check the checkbox.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It was just loosely based on the category. In the documentary, he said that Hitler would have never been convicted for killing Jews, thus enraging the Jewish community.
I hate this person.
Absolutely. This is the worst kind of human being. This story just gets worse and worse as it goes on. At this time, Giovanni was also trying to be the director of the Dundee Football Club, as we know. In Dundee, Scotland, the fans of the club were outraged because he was wearing a Dundee pullover while making those statements. He also boasted of his friendship with Saddam Hussein and with Serbian warlord Arkan. Some of the clients he attracted included Paul Bush, who was jailed for life in 2003 for kidnapping and murder, whose wife paid £20,000 for legal services, and with others, £100,000 to Giovanni to secure bail for her husband. The money was received before the killer was told there was never any possibility of bail. Much of this £100,000 bail security was never returned, even after the appeal failed. Cocaine smuggler Laurent Pencheff's parents paid Giovanni €10,000 in June 2005 for legal services. Specifically CCRC, which is the Criminal Cases Review Commission, and advice regarding repatriation to France. However, he was never given clear advice about how his 18-year jail sentence would be implemented in France, and no work was done taking his case to the CCRC. The money was sent to a bank in Rome by Pencheff's parents, but prosecutor David Ehrenberg, QC, said, quote, Mr. Di Stefano did little or nothing to assist. He was no more a qualified lawyer than he was a surgeon qualified to perform surgery or pilot qualified to fly an airplane. End quote. In January of 2000,
why are people just handing him money?
I suspect he had a very high charisma role.
He has to. To just hand somebody 10,000 euros.
Absolutely. He has to know what he's talking about. So he's being very, very smooth and charismatic with how he's talking to these people to make them believe that he can do what they're asking. In January of 2004, Giovanni again came to fame when he claimed to be acting for serial killer Harold Shipman in television interviews. However, Shipman's lawyer says that Shipman had rejected Giovanni's offer in May 2003, and that neither he nor any member of Shipman's family believed that Giovanni was acting for Shipman. This and an incident in 2004 trial of John Palmer prompted an investigation into Giovanni's qualifications as a lawyer. In January of 2007, Giovanni asked the International Criminal Court to make a full investigation of the Al Dajjal trials of Saddam Hussein's half-brother, Barzan Ibrahim al-Tikriti, and Iraq's judiciary head, Awad Ahmed al-Bandar. Giovanni passed around a handwritten note by Barzan where he explains that he was not responsible for the killings at Dajjal, for which he was sentenced to death. On March 17, 2007, Giovanni wrote to Lord Goldsmith, at the time the Attorney General for England and Wales, asking for leave to prosecute Judge Rauf Rashid Abd al-Rahman, who had sentenced Saddam Hussein under the Geneva Conventions Act 1957. On January 14, 2008, Giovanni was reported as saying, "Hurried justice is no justice." After a claimed UK client who had won £1 million in the national lottery failed to attend court as a witness in an assault case. Judge Christopher Alwyn jailed her for 14 days anyway. In October 2007, he complained that the investigation of Blackwater's civilian deaths on Iraq was unjust because they were forced to operate in a climate and conditions that forced them to shoot first and ask questions later when they came under attack. He is all over the world's problems. I feel like he's in every different country's problems that they're having.
I feel like he could also fit in that category you had before that was like some people have too much free time.
Yes.
Clearly, he needs another hobby.
Right?
He needs to learn macrame or crochet or rug hooking.
I could just picture this guy doing macrame. That'd be actually hilarious.
Or like some Lego.
Lego, yeah.
Those are fun.
Mm-hmm. That's a good time killer for sure. Definitely better than what he's doing. So also in October of 2007, he argued that Iraqi officials had to accept a pardon application for Ali Hassan al-Majid, also known as Chemical Ali, because the 30-day execution window set the trial had passed. The U.S. military later refused to release Ali for his execution until the legal questions were answered. Ali was sentenced to death again in February 2008 for different charges. Then he asked the British Home Secretary for posthumous pardon of Holly Harvey Crippen, who had been hanged for murder in 1910, on the basis of new forensic evidence indicating that the body was not that of his wife, and a letter from his wife that was sent after the date of the alleged murder and was never presented on the trial, and that he never murdered her. I don't know how he would know that, but anyway. The request was filed on behalf of the doctor's last living relative. On January 15th, 2008, Giovanni said that he knew of a sixth victim of Moore's murderers, Ian Brady and Myra Hindley, calling...
Ooh, they're bad people.
Mm-hmm. I actually don't know a whole lot about them, but I learned a little bit from this particular case.
It's a lot. If you want to know about them, fair warning, we will never cover that case here. I don't think we should. It's a little too much for me personally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes me want to look into it.
Morbid did an episode on it.
That could be where I've heard of it before, because I do listen to Morbid. The sixth victim, he said, was called Jennifer Teague, who he said had disappeared after saying she was going to the cinema in Manchester on December 30th, 1964. He said he had a photo of her and intended to speak to Brady to see if the killer would confess to this latest allegation. On January 21st, 2008, Greater Manchester Police issued a statement saying that Jennifer Teague was alive and that, quote, Mr. Di Stefano has previously made claims regarding the Moores murders in the media, but has not provided any detail to Greater Manchester Police, end quote. So he basically just went straight to the media and started talking about this without any police involvement or any investigation whatsoever.
Seems like he just wants attention.
100%. That's what he wants. Giovanni invited Greater Manchester Police to interview his client and to provide proper evidence that Teague was still alive. Moore's murderer Ian Brady has been force-fed at a top security hospital since he started a hunger strike in September 1999. In September of 2007, Brady applied via Giovanni to be moved to a conventional jail where he intended to starve himself to death. Late in November 2008, when Brady was still being force-fed, Giovanni accused the state of legally starving Brady to death by not giving him enough food. Giovanni stated that Brady was bound to die there in 3 months unless he is made to eat more. In 2009 to 2010, Giovanni made appeals to move him to a Scottish prison so he can die there, a move that the Scottish government strongly opposes. In September 2009, acting in the name of Manuel Noriega, Giovanni presented an appeal to French President Nicolas Sarkozy, saying that the ruling against Noriega had been incorrectly made in absentia. In May 2010, he made an appeal on behalf of Benguit Omar, saying that he was wrongly convicted for the murder of John Okay. It's okay. I'm not really sure how it's pronounced. Shin is the last name. In January 2011, Giovanni reported that he had asked for Charles Manson's permission to represent him in an application to review his trial based upon a violation of the Sixth Amendment and a legal argument that had not been raised during Manson's trial, although he had still to get his reply. On January 26, 2011, Giovanni filed an application with the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights on behalf of Manson, claiming the same violations. Finally, on February 14th, 2011, Giovanni was...
Happy Valentine's Day.
was arrested in Palma, Majorca in Spain. He was on a European arrest warrant issued by the British authorities. According to the City of London police, the warrant had been issued in January of 2011 on matters relating to fraud, theft, and money laundering. The arrest was the outcome of a lengthy investigation by the City of London Police's Economic Crime Directorate. According to a statement by the Spanish Interior Ministry, quoting the arrest warrant, Giovanni was accused of having earned large sums of money in the UK between 2004 and 2009 without being licensed to practice law in that country. The ministry said that he was facing 18 charges for which he could receive a maximum 75 years in prison. Giovanni had voluntarily accepted his extradition to the UK and released without bail until the extradition date, with no passport and with the obligation of going to the judge every few days and communicating any residency change. Giovanni says that this is a political trial prepared after he said that Tony Blair should be judged by his role in the Iraq War. On August 25th, Westminster Magistrates Court referred the case involving 18 charges of fraud to Southwark Crown Court for a hearing on September the 30th. After the hearing, Giovanni was released on bail pending trial on January 14th, 2013. Courts take so long. On March 27th, 2013, he was found guilty of all charges, which were 9 counts of obtaining a money transfer by deception, 8 counts of fraud, 3 counts of acquiring criminal property, 2 counts of using a false instrument, 1 count of attempting to obtain a money transfer by deception, 1 count of obtaining property by deception, and 1 count of using criminal property. He subsequently pleaded guilty to 2 additional counts, which were defrauding a couple out of £160,000, including a woman's life savings of £75,000, and stealing £150,000 from a man who had been in a car accident and lost a limb.
Dang, that's a lot of money.
Right? And super shitty human behavior. Like, how can you defraud people of their money, especially when they go through stuff like that and they're trusting you to be on their side and you're just there to take their money and run?
That's freaking like almost $500,000 Canadian dollars.
Yeah. So he was sentenced to 14 years in prison, and Judge Alistair McCreath stated that Di Stefano, so Giovanni, had caused misery and frustration to many people and called him a predator for his treatment of desperate and vulnerable clients. He said, "You had no regard for them nor their anguish. Your only concern was to line your own pockets." He described Giovanni's crimes as planned and persistent, his defense in court as breathtakingly cynical, and his overall conduct as showing greed, dishonesty, and utter disregard for the sensibilities of others. On April 4th, 2014, 8.5 years were added to Giovanni's 14-year sentence unless he compensated his victims immediately. The judge who jailed him at Southwark Crown Court, Alistair McCreath, told him to pay back £1.4 million forthwith or serve extra time. He said Giovanni had no intention of paying and had stuck up 2 fingers to the court. And that's technically the end of the story, but I kind of wanted to quickly just run through the names of the notable people that Giovanni had claimed to represent during his time as a lawyer that was not licensed to be a lawyer. So Harold Shipment, he was a serial killer who killed 250 victims that were patients under his care at a hospital. However, the Irish Independent commented that the law firm that represented him said that they denied that he had acted for his client, but there was still communication there. Saddam Hussein, only as part of their legal team in 2004, and only for the trial, before the trial began. He was the 5th president of Iraq who was convicted and later hanged for his crimes against humanity for the killings of 148 Shiites in 1982. Tariq Aziz, who was a close advisor of Saddam Hussein. Patrick Holland, who was an Irish career criminal, armed robbery, arms trafficking, drug trafficking, etc. Jeremy Bamber, he was convicted in 1985 White House farm murders in Tulse Darcy, Essex. Nicholas Van Hoogstraten, he was convicted and sent to prison for 4 years after paying a gang to attack a business associate. So I'm guessing he just had gang affiliation. Not just, but, you know. John Gilligan is another one, and he was a convicted Irish gangster. Charles Bronson, not the actor. He was known as the most violent prisoner in Britain. Ali Hassan al-Majdi, Iraqi politician and military commander under Saddam Hussein, aka known as Chemical Ali, whose death sentence Giovanni tried but failed to overturn. Disgraced pop star and serial sex offender Gary Glitter. Birgit, probably. Birgit Cunningham on her child support payment complaints against the son of billionaire Sir Nicholas Nuttall. Ian Brady, who is one of the 2 Moors murderers. Ian Strachan, one of the defendants in the 2007 royal blackmail plot. And that's it for the list of names. The last note I made here was that he's written to the parole board requesting Ronnie Biggs' release on compassionate grounds. And Ronnie Biggs is the English criminal who helped plan and carry out the Great Train Robbery of 1963.
Why is he writing to the parole board? Who would take him seriously? He's a criminal.
Giovanni wrote to the parole board.
Right. But why would the parole board listen to Giovanni?
As a notable lawyer is what he was trying to play it off as. And if
many criminal
But if
convictions.
they didn't look him up, like if you don't look him up though, how would you know, right? You think he's a notable lawyer, well-respected, apparently very charismatic. So yeah. I don't know. I'm not really sure how he got to where he did with literally nothing. No credentials, no actual schooling of any kind. He said there was one article that I did read where he quoted saying that he should be allowed to practice law even though he wasn't actually a accredited lawyer because he had taught himself how to be a lawyer. So he felt like because he knew the law, he should be able to practice law.
That's not how the world works, unfortunately.
No, it does not, unfortunately. I mean, maybe fortunately for all of us, because it means that none of what he tried to do actually went through or whatever.
Except he was a lawyer for a long time.
For a long time. He did. I know. He actually did get away with it. He didn't get arrested. What year was that? 2011? February 14th on Valentine's Day, 2011. I never actually did watch the end of that show.
I only watched the first, I think, 2 seasons.
It's really good. Yeah. It's a good show. I enjoyed it quite a bit. My cousin worked on that show. He was one of the, I think, 3rd assistant directors on it.
Cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, anyway, so that's Devil's Advocates, and that's Giovanni Di Stefano. He's got the last name Stefano, which makes me laugh because it immediately makes me think of Days of Our Lives. If anybody watched,
never watched.
Oh, okay.
I was never a soap opera person, really.
Well, I only started watching it because a girl that used to babysit me, she had a couple of kids, and I used to go over there and we would just play or whatever. And there would be some times where we would be in the living room and she would be watching her soap opera shows. So I started kind of watching them then, but obviously I was super young, so I didn't really get into them. It wasn't until I got into high school where I would come home. My school was out super early. I was done school at like 2 p.m. or something like that. And I'd come home and my soap operas were on. I got to watch Days of Our Lives and General Hospital and all those good shows. Anyway, Stefano was one of the villains in Days of Our Lives and never failed. Every time he died, he would come back later. If he's still alive now, he'll probably die again and he'll come back later. He'll just keep coming back. I don't know how it happens. And he's like father to 4 different generations of women or something.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, so it just made me laugh because I'm like, yeah, they both have the same kind of villainous vibes. Anyway, I think it's your turn to roll.
No, it's not.
Oh, I just told my story.
It's spooky season. We don't roll for spooky season.
Oh, we don't roll for spooky season. Okay.
Megan, do you even work here?
Apparently not. I mean, we've only had one spooky season since we started the podcast, so clearly I forgot.
It's a tradition that we don't roll.
Okay. I love it. I'm for it. Apparently it's a brand new thing for me. I
never forget spooky season. It's when I'm in my podcast prime.
Yeah, that's very true. Cool. All right. Well, take us out.
I was about to. So if you would like to follow us on social media, you can search our beautiful name, The Grimdark Diaries. And if you would like to contact us and tell Megan how often the phrase squeaky wheel gets the grease is said in the world, you can email thegrimdarkdiaries@gmail.com. And if you listen to us on Apple Podcasts, you can give us a 5-star rating and a review, and that helps us out a lot. And on other podcast platforms, you can like us and subscribe. And on Spotify, you can give us a 5-star rating, and that also helps us, and we really appreciate it. And we are very grateful when people do that for us. And tune in next week to see what I have for our first installment of Off the Rails. It's a surprise, spooky season stuff. And remember, a friend in the dark beats alone in the light.